Lads, welcome back to Fusion YGO. It is your boy Christian, the Haver Card Man, back at you with another video, and we are finally returning with a Master Duel deck profile. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I finally have a deck that I've been really enjoying on ladder and currently has gotten me to Platinum 4. But as you can see here, it has a pretty good win-loss rate. I've only had a couple of total losses, and most of the games have just kind of been complete blowouts. It's really good going second, it's really good going first. It just plays very well into the Master Duel ladder and can just do a lot of absurd things. Let's just go ahead and get straight into the profile today. So the deck we are currently looking at today is going to be, as you can guess by the title and the thumbnail, we are taking a look at my Danger Dark World deck for Master Duel. This thing has just been absolutely insane. It's very good in a best of one format, especially when basically no one is playing Droll and Lockbird. Yes, Max C is a card, but this deck doesn't really care. This is one of the decks that can actually easily deck people out under the right circumstances under a Max C, and it's just been overall a very good time. So in terms of the Danger Dark World deck here, what we have is one Ceruli, triple copies of Brow Huntsman of Dark World, 2 Danger Jackalope, 2 Danger Tsuchinoko, 2 copies of Beige Vanguard of Dark World, 1 Dark Greffer, 3 copies of Snow, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 2 Danger Chupacabra, 3 Danger Mothman, 3 Genta Gateman of Dark World, 1 Salamander Catalyzer, 1 Lucent Netherlord of Dark World, 3 copies of Danger Nessie, 2 copies of Grapha, 2 copies of Danger Bigfoot, 3 copies of Rainbow, 1 Trade-In, 2 Gates of Dark World, 1 Twin Twisters, and 1 Dark World Accession. To round off the main deck, it's a solid 40 cards. We'll dive more into the theory on some of these cards and text here in just a minute. For the extra deck, we are playing 1 Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Dark World, 1 Daigusto Emerald, 1 Dugaris the Timeless, 1 Raiders Knight, 1 Arc Rebellion, 1 Coach King Giant Trainer, 1 Dingirsu, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer, 1 Muckraker from the Underworld, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Saryuja, 1 Nightmare Griffin, 1 Apollosa, and 1 Access Code Talker. Now, as you can probably tell just going through the card by card, this deck has a lot of tools and options to be able to deal with things. It's able to play under a lot of stuff. The matchup against Labyrinth is very strong. Haven't had too much Sprite yet. And as far as Kashtira goes, depending on the hand, you can play through the board pretty well, but we also haven't seen too much Kashtira yet, so this is definitely a deck to enjoy before Arise Heart comes out. As soon as Arise Heart gets released, this deck does become a little bit worse. With these, a lot of this is just, it's an all gas deck. You'll notice there's no hand traps in the deck, not even Max C. This is one of the few that does not really want to play Max C. You want a lot of your cards to stay in deck so that way you can continue to draw through it with all of your different Danger cards and Dark World cards and just being able to search stuff and dealing with a lot of things. You just really don't need Max C in this deck. Even though I primarily play it as a going second strategy, Max C is just, it can end up being a brick in the middle of your combo, and you don't want to see that. You want to be able to just constantly be top decking more gas to keep on playing. We have a lot of different things in here. There's only 1 trade-in because there's only like sometimes where it comes up. You don't want to brick on this card, but it's good if you open up a Rainbow or a Grapha. Yes, it won't trigger either of their discarding effects because it does discard as cost, but it's a free draw too, and then you can bounce another Dark World on the field to your hand to summon them back out, so you really don't lose any advantage in that regard. It just kind of helps you set up your graveyard while also drawing you into more gas. The danger ratios are kind of interesting. Such and Jackalope are just decent. I mean, Such, it summons itself. A level 3 extender is like not always the best thing, but it's at least an extra body to help you link climb. The Jackalope is really nice because it allows you to grab a certain level from the deck, whether you need a level 4 from the deck as a rank 4 extender, or you can grab one of your Bigfoots as a level 8 extender to get in any of your exceeds here. Basically, the game plan going first is you want to set up an Apollosa with a Nightmare Griffin and a Grapha. That'll get you an Omni Negate, 3 to 4 Monster Negates, and then a Floodgate in Nightmare Griffin. You rarely ever need to use the Spell Trap effect on Nightmare Griffin, but if you do, you co-link it with the Apollosa so you get an extra draw for potentially more gas, which is really nice. It helps that a lot of the Dark World stuff activates and does things from the graveyard, so Griffin doesn't really affect your deck as much, but it hurts a lot of others. Having things like Rainbow and Grapha and Bigfoot to just be big beaters helps you play under extra deck locks quite a bit. There's just a lot of resources that this deck has that makes it difficult for other decks to play. And I'll even show you a quick replay here in a minute. You don't really see the Dark World mirror a whole lot in ladder, at least I currently haven't yet. But if it does come up, the only time that like anything in this is really an issue is going to be your Danger Mothman if it gets sniped, because that does give your opponent a chance to fix their hand and be able to start getting their own plays going. As far as stuff like the Dark Grepher goes, this is an extra level 4 extender that can get you extra things going. I mean, of course, he also discards for cost on these effects, but it can be something that can like set up your Grapha or your Rainbows in the graveyard to be able to get those loops going. So it's really strong there. And then of course, being a level 4 extender, that can get you into a Dugaris or a Daigusto Emerald. And you can loop Saryuja a couple times in a turn thanks to Daigusto Emerald, which is just really, really strong. Fairy Tale Snow, just obviously good card. You're filling up your graveyard very quickly with a lot of cards you don't need, like Spent Dangers, that you can banish to get an extra Book of Moon or an extra level 4 extender. Whatever you need it for, Snow is there. It's a great card. A lot of people have been playing with Salamander Catalyzer in the TCG. This is another level 4 extender that also discards a Fiend from your hand, and actually as an effect, so you can trigger your Dark World effects, which is just insane. It is unfortunately a hard once per turn though, which is why we only run 1 copy. If it was not a once per turn, we'd definitely be running like 2 or 3, no problem. But that pretty much covers most of the theory of this deck. Your biggest goal is you want to get to Accession with Grapha and another Dark World as quickly as possible to get your almost Omni Negate set up that also allows you to be able to discard extra cards by an opponent's effect technically, which triggers a lot of your separate effects. A lot of the times you're looping Rainbow to get a couple of copies of Grapha in rotation and a copy of Lucent. And then you're also using stuff like your Fairy Tale Snow to search for your Dark World Accession. You, of course, have Genta to really cycle through your deck by getting your Gates of Dark World. You can run a 3rd copy of this if you want. I just don't want to brick on it, but I really want to see Genta in the opening hand because it is a way to enable so many of your combos, being able to get itself onto the field after it gets banished by your Gates, drawing an extra card off of Gates, and then discarding a Dark World monster of your choice to potentially be able to get into even more plays. So let me go and show you a quick replay of this deck so you guys can kind of get a little bit of a feel for how it operates. All right, so the replay that I'm about to show you is actually a pretty good example of Dark World being able to go second and break through a board. I did match up against Sword Soul, which does set up a few disruptions, and the way that they opened actually was pretty good. Probably one of the better ways for Sword Soul to open. And it was a little bit of a tough board to crack. As you can see here, we got a pretty decent hand with the Fairy Tale Snow, Danger Mothman, Nessie, Grapha, and Rainbow. This does get us started on a lot of things, but we really got to hope for good draws off of these dangers. Let's just see what the opponent builds for a board and see how we're going to play through it. So they're going to lead off with Pot of Desires, banishing 10. They're going to go for the Ashuna play here, going into a Monk of the Tenyi. They are going to go ahead and use Adhara now and use Ashuna after that resolves to summon a Vishuddha, going to a Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. So they already have 1 disruption on field, a banish whenever I activate a monster effect. They're going to go normal summon Taya, banish the Adhara to summon their token. For follow-up, adding a long wand to hand, and we're going to go ahead and use the Heavenly Dragon Circle to tribute off our Monk of the Tenyi to summon the Taya. I'm not sure why they summoned the Taya, but that is what they chose to do. So then we're going to go Long Wand, summon a token to go into the Sinister Sovereign Qixing Long Wand. This is another rough card against this deck because it does banish your cards as you're playing them. So if you play things in the wrong order, they can end up banishing some really important pieces like a Grapha or a Rainbow that you want to be looping throughout the turn. So they're going to go ahead and burn for 12 and pass on up to us. So we're looking at an on-field monster negate, a monster banish when it activates its effect, and then a monster and a spell or trap banish with 1200 burn for each. So we're going to draw Jackalope for turn. That's pretty solid. Now I think this becomes the best danger for us to activate. If we snipe it, it does suck, but if we hit either of the other 2 dangers, it gets us a draw and digs us further into our deck for better cards that allows us to ensure that we can keep playing. So I'm going to lead off by normal summoning the Fairy Tale Snow here, activating effect, trying to book the Qixing Long Wand. They are going to chain the Draco Berserker and then the Chi Xiao right after to be able to negate its effect and banish it. And as you can see, they do activate Max C on me. So very unfortunate. That does kind of put us in an awkward position. They did banish the snow and negate it. We have used our normal summon for the turn, but thankfully we do have 3 dangers in hand to start popping off. So we're going to activate the Jackalope here. We do snipe the Grapha, which is very strong. Top deck into a Nessie. I'm going to Grapha, try to pop that Keishing long one. He's going to banish the Jackalope here, which is totally fine. We don't care. We're going to danger Nessie. Unfortunately, he does Ash, so he is not like quite the best player. He is one of those people that Ashes dangers, but all that aside, he did set up a pretty formidable board to get through. So let's just go ahead and play through it here. So we're just going to go Mothman with our Rainbow here. Go Nessie, accidentally snipe the Nessie. Oh well. We'll go and grab ourselves a Bigfoot, activate Nessie, snipe itself again. Very unfortunate. So you can kind of see what happens on the high roll end of this if you do end up whiffing on stuff, but that's okay. We're going to go in Bigfoot, hit that Grapha now, be able to top deck into a trade-in. Grapha's going to be able to pop another card. We're going to get rid of the Draco Berserker for the battle phase. We're going to go into Dark the Dark Charmer to be able to revive their Draco Berserker. They are going to bell that, which is just kind of rough. We're going to go battle attacking with Dark because we don't really have any gas left in our hand. So Dark will allow us to add a Chupacabra from deck to hand. So even if we snipe it, we can get stuff on board and keep playing. So we're going to go Chup, hit the Lucent. Absolutely perfect hit here. We're going to summon back the Lucent as is mandatory, bounce it back with Rainbow, bounce the Rainbow back with Grapha, and we have successfully refilled our hand. Now we're allowed to go trade in with the Rainbow here to be able to draw 2 cards. We're going to top deck into a Genta and a Tsuchinoko, just absolutely perfect here. So we're going to go Genta, add Gates of Dark World being able to banish the Genta, pitch the Lucent, summon itself back. Top deck a Salamander Catalyzer is just fantastic. So summon the Genta, summon the Lucent. We're going to bounce the Genta with the Rainbow, and then bounce the Lucent with the other Grapha. We're going to go ahead and use Genta's effect again because his effect to get Gates of Dark World is not a once per turn. So then now we're going to go ahead and link off and do an IP Masquerena here, get our Graphas back in the graveyard, bounce the Rainbow back to hand. And then we're going to go ahead and go Salamander Catalyzer to discard the Lucent and summon itself, summon back the Lucent. Just absolutely free advantage. Summon the Grapha again. We're going to go Dingirsu, start dismantling more of this board. Going to get rid of that Chisho. Now, at this point, I kind of realized that our opponent was getting a little bit low on cards because they did max see us after going through Pot of Desires. So we're just going to go entirely for it. We're going to go to Degars the Timeless here, be able to detach 2, draw 2, and discard 1. Summoning back the Lucent, and then we are going to Gates of Dark World, but we're just going to go ahead and go Appaloosa for game. So now you can see a case where Dark World can just absolutely play through a max C. So I know it may not have been the best examples of it, but you can kind of see how this deck can play in different ways, and it is very high rolly, but it is also a ton of fun and can climb up the ladder pretty easily. I'll update you guys as I get closer to Diamond and Master rank, which I'm hoping to be able to do with this deck because this is just a ton of fun and it can do a whole lot of things. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning into this deck profile. If you enjoyed it, let us know down in the comments, and if there's any other decks you want covered in Master Duel, feel free to let me know and I'll give them a shot at some point. Of course, Master Duel decks can get expensive at times, and this unfortunately is one of those cases as there are quite a few URs, but it's still fun nonetheless. If you can end up building up towards it and can afford it, it's just a great time. So that's all I got for you guys today. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you all next time. And as always, good fun. Have luck.